The main thing is you need to train with the intent of being a bodybuilder. Our goal is to grow the muscle, not to get stronger. I think guys that primarily chase strength never make good bodybuilders.
IFBB Pro, bodybuilder, coach, and retired tech CEO at the prime age of 50.
I've gone up to as high as 18. I know Chase runs 18. I tried to keep up with Chase. I couldn't feel my hands. I was like, dude, I don't know how you do this, man.
Call Barnett.
I overheard some guys talking all the gear they were taking, and I walked around the corner. I was expecting to see some super heavyweights, and I was like, what? These kids don't even look like they lift.
You said that this was the most gear you've ever run, right?
Pretty much the whole cycle. It was a test, a master on a primo. I was doing 2,000 grams of carbs on my high days at the end.
Damn, dude. How the fuck did you digest that?
Crazy story, man. I was in a car wreck. The doctor that examined me in the ER noticed the spot on my back, and he's like, you gotta go get that checked out. And so, yeah, he saved my life.
Oh, whoa.
That's fucking awesome. But it comes with a cost, man. Let's think about what kills bodybuilders typically. It's...
What? How did you get access to like Pharma Primo and Pharma Mass and all these things?
Well, I'm not gonna lie.
Before starting this podcast, I just wanted to say that ideating steroids for a full show is not widely accepted because it discounts the real work, which is the backbone of this sport. And unfortunately spreads that an unsafe chemical solution is all you need for results. Both of these are antithetical to society's understanding of the sport. And while there will always be some that claim that PEDs are all you need, I would like to deliver an honest message of what is required for achieving top performance, as well as the dangers associated with this route. I received this comment from a user named Nightscarens. But just as a rock climber, the athletes undergoing this path in the sport are willing to put their life on the line for their passion. Just the danger between the two sports is different. Luckily, we do have safety nets in the sport, such as organ imaging and regular blood work. But that doesn't change the high risk one must accept in taking on this competitive lifestyle.
I don't know if you can see this right here, but I have my leg up here iced.
Yeah, I saw your post about your knee, man. That sucks.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's not no big deal. I'm sure as you've seen in the industry, you know, these things just kind of always tend to happen at the very last second.
Yeah, I got sick right before my show, man. I almost pulled out. I'm glad I didn't, but...
I heard that from your last podcast. Or I think I saw a podcast with you and it was on Think Big?
Yeah.
Media, right?
Yeah, something happened, man. I don't... My wife was sick and... I don't... Maybe it was COVID. Fuck if I know. Is the show you're doing nearby or you have to travel?
Basically why everything's a little bit really hectic right now is show is the Florida Pro. So right now,
so you got to fly.
Yeah, we just flew in yesterday. So right now we're at the condo, staying in. It's like in Clearwater, kind of Tampa area, which is still like an hour from the show, but we're just gonna have to travel an hour here, an hour to check-ins, and then back, and then an hour again to the show on Saturday.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does. It'll be extra fun because there's like a mandatory freaking athlete meeting at like 7 a.m. of course.
Oh,
and
nice.
Then the pros don't even get on till like noon. So it's like a little just be sitting there for, what, 5 hours waiting, having to wake up at 5 a.m. just so I can make this mandatory athlete meeting.
Do you have to go in stupid early for your tan?
Well, luckily the first coat of tan is beforehand, and then the touch-up for the pros is at 9 a.m. on Saturday.
Oh, okay. That's
It's just the athlete meeting that is like,
Gotcha.
Oh, now I got to wake up at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. so I can make sure everything's packed for the entire day, then travel an hour and a half, and then be there for the meeting.
Yeah, I love when they want you to come in for your tan at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
Super early. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
How early did they have you do it for your last show?
I got lucky, man. I got the last slot. We had to be backstage at 8, and I tanned at 7:30. I was like the very last slot.
Nice. Congrats on your pro card, by the way, bro. That's massive.
Yeah, thanks, man. I've never even won an overall before. That was the first time I've ever won an overall.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get there, I guess, from the start of your journey?
Let's see. I did some bodybuilding in my 20s. I was never really serious. I think this was my 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth show back, fourth show back, something like that.
You were fourth show back, you said.
Yeah.
So how many years is that, would you say, from like actual competing?
I mean, I did some stuff when I was in my 20s, just didn't take it that seriously. I wish I had. I probably could have turned pro back then. Let's see. I got back in the gym. I took... Are we recording now, or is this...
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, yeah, I thought we were just shooting the shit. Sorry.
It's normally how my podcast goes anyway, so it's not really any different.
Yeah, let's see. I started back at 43, and I just got my pro card at 50, so 7 years.
Damn.
7 years it took. Long story short, I just fucked off and took off like 11 years from the gym. It didn't work out at all.
Damn.
I just let myself. I have this special gift of being able to lose weight and get fat at the same time.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's my unique skill set where I can get skinny. I call it skinny fat, where I lose weight and get fat at the same time. So, yeah, I think it was like 300 pounds when I was in my peak, like around 32.
Oh, holy shit.
Around 300.
Wait, how tall are you?
Just a hair under 6'2".
Damn.
Yeah, so
that's insane.
I was like power lifter big. It wasn't like bodybuilding 300, but I weighed in at 250 at the show. So I was over the classic cap by 18 pounds. I thought about doing classic,
Christ, bro, that's crazy.
It's weird though, because like I have very long limbs, so it doesn't look like I'm that big. It's the curse of being tall and long. I thought about dipping down, because in the pros now it's 242 for classic. I thought about doing classic, but I don't know. I mean, look, I'm 50 years old, man. I'm not going to be competing for an Olympia title. But I would like to go out and do a show or two and just to say I did it, see what happens. But I'm at this weird spot where I'm not really big enough for open, but I'm too big for classic. I could get down in the pros, because I think it's 242 is the cutoff. So it's only 8 pounds from where I was at there. So, I mean, that's within range. But I would probably need to put on another 15, 20 pounds to be competitive as an open guy.
Gotcha. And how comfortable do you feel doing that at your age?
I mean, it's always in the back of my head. I was like, yeah, let's do it. But then it's probably not smart. You don't see many 70-year-old, 270-pound bodybuilders, right?
Yeah.
They don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point I got to downsize, but I was watching the Masters Worlds this past weekend, and there was some dudes out there that looked really fucking good, man. They could hang in the open. And I was at North Americans last week. There were some dudes that dipped down from the Masters into the open and did really well. It's not like it used to be, man. 20 years ago when you were over 40, you were done.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, that seems to be when guys are hitting their prime, is around 40. You look at the guys that win the Olympia, most of them are, with the exception of Derek, but most of the past Olympia competitors, Sean Roden, Hottie, Big Ramy, I mean, they were all around 40,
Oh, wow.
when they won. So I think that's sort of when you're peaked out. It was around 40.
I think the part that frustrates me is how young the classic physique top 3 is right now.
Yeah, they are young.
20s.
I think some of it, this is controversial, but I think some of it's how many years you've been blasting gear hard, man.
Oh, you mean like, in terms of like how long your muscle maturity last. And how long you can last.
Yeah, it seems like you got like a 10-year window of being able to blast gear hard, and then after that, the wheels sort of fall off.
So, like, what is your perspective then, I guess, on just the classic guys being all like in their, say, later 20s right now? Most successful
they're
ones.
not.
Do you think that's just coincidence, or?
I think it has to do with the size thing, because you're limited on size. I mean, guys are continuing to grow. Like, I mean, you look at like Bumstead. I mean, he has to, from what I understand, he has to struggle to get down to the weight. His body wants to be bigger.
Yeah.
And then classic, you need more of a tighter look. And that's one thing I noticed, that as you get older, your waist starts to distend. You start to get more of a blocky look as you get older.
Right.
That does tend to change. So it could be just in you know, simply just that. I don't know. Although the guy that won Classic in the Masters Worlds this week looked like he could be on the Olympia stage.
In Classic Worlds this week.
Masters Worlds, the guy who won Classic at Masters Worlds.
Do you know what his name is?
Daniel Hughes.
Daniel, how do you spell that?
Hughes. I'll send you his picture on Instagram. But I mean, he looked amazing, man.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, dude's in his 50s.
Damn, he looks young for his 50s. If I'm looking at the right guy.
But yeah, I mean, he looked crazy, man.
Oh my God. That's a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he could be out on the Olympia stage competing with the Open guys, right?
Yeah, his
legs, with the regular Masters competitor.
His legs are peeled, bro. His legs are fucking peeled.
Yeah.
Like, I always wonder how, I mean, obviously it's just genetics, but like Chris Bumstead type leg striations that just look 3D.
Some of that's just you're born that way.
Right. Yep. Nice.
I mean, it's like there's some guys that it seems like there's a limit on certain amounts of like you'll see guys like some guys can't get their hamstrings in ever. Some guys can't ever get their glutes in.
For me, I think it turns out to, in a weird way, I feel like it's my midsection. Yeah. There's like, I also don't have as many like, my striations aren't as deep on the top of my quads. But for me, for some reason, maybe it's mostly just because I've been focusing on men's physique first before doing any of the other divisions. And obviously midsection doesn't matter in the other divisions as much as men's physique. But unfortunately, that's the thing that seems to dry out the last for me. Like, it'll lean out first through prep. But then as peak rolls around and then, you know, you start carving up for the show, for some reason, it's like even if all the fat is off the midsection, there's still just like a tiny little bit of water or like a tiny little bit of like a lack of definition in the bottom abs. And it just seems to be a genetic thing for me. Like, I also just don't think I have as deep separation there as, you know, some crazy other athletes. Like, you look at Ryan Terry or like Brandon Hendrickson, and they just have like this perfect like 8-pack.
I mean, you look pretty shredded in your pics when I look at you. But,
thanks, bro. I
mean, we're all, you know how it is, man. When you do the shit, you only notice the shit that's not right when you look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your eye just focuses on that one part, and you're like, oh man, this just doesn't look good, man. I don't know. I mean, it's like that when you get on stage. I mean, it's like, this is why I don't know, like, I don't know how guys, I know there's some guys that prep themselves. I've seen very few actually be successful doing prep themselves. Your mind gets so stupid towards the end of prep. You just see shit in the mirror that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can be objective with yourself and make good decisions. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I know how to prep people. I've prepped hundreds of people at this point. But I would never prep myself, man. I would do absolutely everything wrong at the end.
Yeah, no, I would too. Absolutely. I'm always overthinking it. And I can just tell, dude, this show that I've been on right now, I can literally just tell that as I keep moving forward and continuing to do, say, like another show afterwards, and I'm holding like this lowest body fat percentage I can, even trying to dig deeper for extra weeks. It's like my mind is slowly adapting to getting more and more used to looking like this and being more adapted to this being my norm.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact the moment I'm going to start reversing and stuff, I'm going to be like, fuck, dude, I look fat as fuck.
Yeah, your brain gets all screwed up. And I'll do a show and I'll be like, man, I don't know if I was like having self-doubts backstage going into this one. I almost pulled out of the show. I was like, I don't think I'm ready. I don't feel good. I'm just going to go out prejudging, and if I'm not in center, I'm punching out.
You remind me of some things I want to ask you, but before I ask you them, with this show, so what happened? You said you got sick too?
COVID, I think, maybe, or the flu. Usually you don't get flu in the summer. I don't know. Everybody in my family was sick, and then I got sick. I had a fever. Like, the prep went perfect, man. It was the easiest prep I've ever done. But no prep is easy, but it was like just a breeze. I felt like I wasn't working hard enough, to be honest with you. Like, it was just, and I've never had this happen before. I started prep at 250, and I weighed in at 249.8 going into the
what?
into the, yeah, like completely like recomp the whole time, man. It was crazy.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've never had that happen, man. I always lose 20, 30 pounds on prep. I usually get bigger. I usually get up like 270, 280 in the off season, but I stayed tighter. And I also wasn't really running into gear, just bodybuilding TRT. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, in the off season.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, and then I went, full tilt for this prep. This was the most gear I've ever run, so probably why I just recomped the whole time, man. It was wild. And then about a week out, I just felt like dog shit, and I started looking worse, man. I was like, fuck. Figures I would get sick.
Damn.
And then I was just holding a crazy amount of water coming in the last couple days, and we had to push the diuretics a little bit harder than I like to do. Usually I'm pretty dry, and I don't think that helped things. And then I couldn't eat on the day of the show. I basically just didn't eat. I had some Rice Krispie treats and a little bit of Gatorade, and that was it. That's all I ate. Although I've been playing around with my clients and having them eat less on the day of the show than the day before. I think it keeps your waist tighter.
I think so too. That's my personal. If I was coaching anybody, I would have them do that too. You already fill out. You're drinking enough water prior. Your body's storing those as glycogen. By the time it's show day, how much time do you really have to store more glycogen? And then on top of that, as you consume food and consume water, normally you get more watery as the day goes on. So it's like, why not utilize and add all those carbohydrates and that food in when you can wake up the next morning and still be dry, rather than, make yourself more watery by eating a lot more food on that day. Obviously it differs per person, but I feel like that happens more often than not.
I just never understood the whole, I see guys hammering a bunch of food backstage. You're dehydrated. You can't synthesize glycogen without water.
Yep.
And water plays a role in digestion too. So if you're eating a bunch of heavy protein, it's just all sitting there in your gut.
Yeah, the heavy protein too is crazy. What was it? I think I'm trying not to call anyone out here, but there was this chick that was about to get on stage. I think she was her coach was having her consume like a bunch of tilapia and like asparagus, and it was like the day of the show, and I was like, I was so confused. There was no fats, there were no carbs in there. It was just a bunch of tilapia and asparagus for like a bikini competitor too.
Yeah, all that stuff's just going to sit in your gut,
crazy.
man. And I've done this before. Man, after you do the show and you start drinking a bunch of water, man, the first thing that happens is you take a big giant shit, man. It all comes out.
Yeah.
And it's so all that stuff was just sitting in your gut. It's not even really getting digested, or it's not doing anything. You're not going to be generating muscle protein synthesis on show day. So I think it was John Meadows. I don't remember who, but somebody told me this, and this is what I've done the last couple shows. I just eat Rice Krispie treats on the day of the show, just a little bit.
They're fire, bro.
That's it. That's all I eat. I don't eat any protein. I don't eat anything else, and that's it.
Nice.
Real quick, guys. So while I was looking at the YouTube analytics, I actually saw that 85% of you guys that watch this channel are not subscribed. And I want to ask very little of you guys, but if you enjoy this podcast, if you find value in it, then please do me this one favor and subscribe to the channel, because doing so helps me get bigger and greater guests like the guests you are listening to today. Also, this channel is not sponsored, which means only the companies that I work with, which are Young LA and Hughes Supplements, are the companies that can help fund this channel by you guys using the code NILE. So code NILE gives you a discount of 15% off of Young LA, and code NILE also gives you a discount of 10% off of Hughes Supplements. And if you decide to purchase anything from any of these companies, it will help immensely for me by using my code. And this way, I can travel to other guests, such as Dr. Mike Israetel next week, and also upgrade in equipment to make this podcast bigger and better for you guys.
Do you have any fats on the day of the show at all?
I have a little peanut butter
Yeah.
with the Rice Krispie treats, but
Yeah.
I think like 90% of the shit that people eat backstage or that they're doing backstage does absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I feel like the thing that helps the most, at least for me, was just like just like you, like Rice Krispies, like sugars and honey.
Yep.
And that also just, you know, increases my dopamine and makes me feel better too. So when I go on stage, I have more energy to pose at least.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. It's probably all dopamine and psychological. Most of it, like I see guys hammering gummy bears and doing all this stuff backstage, and I'm like, man, it's just really. The other one I love too is when dudes start pumping up an hour before they get on stage. That always cracks me up too. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Just chill.
How long do you pump up before stage?
I wait until I get in lineup, and then I'll start doing it then.
Do you know how long before you get on?
I try to get it as close to as going on stage. I mean, how long do you maintain a pump? A few minutes?
Yeah. And
you're just blowing all your glycogen out.
Right.
when you're, I don't know.
I think it takes me a little bit. I feel like normally I need some patience and a little bit of time when I'm pumping up, especially when I'm dehydrated. So I feel like for me, at least, I'm pumping up like at least 10 minutes
prior.
I think that's
fine.
Maybe 15 minutes prior. But yeah, after that, it's just like you've got what you got.
Yeah, I think I see guys doing like full blown workouts and shit backstage, and
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You know, and they're still. I'm like, bro, it's going to be an hour before you actually get on stage. What are you doing? Just lay down and chill.
My current coach has actually been having me do also like the day before, not just on show day, but like for the carb up and stuff. He's been having me do the Rice Krispie cereal.
Oh,
have you ever tried that?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's digests really easy.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome, honestly. Like, I had like Rice Krispie cereal and honey before the last show, and I just poured the honey over the Rice Krispie cereal. It was fucking like one of the best meals I've ever had.
See, I think that's the route to go, though, is to have stuff that digests easily and keeps your gut tight.
Yeah, 100%.
And you wouldn't want to be doing that all through your prep, right? But
no,
I think the last day or two do that. I also tried this year. I did the gear a little different. I dropped everything 10 days out, and then ran super high Winstrol going into the show. I ran 200 milligrams a day of Winstrol going into the show.
Oh shit! How did you feel on 200?
I felt okay. Maybe that's why I felt like shit. I wasn't really sick.
Damn.
I don't know.
Wait, so you said that this was the most gear you've ever run, right? This show?
Yeah.
The one you got your pro card in?
Yeah, I ran pretty much my whole prep. I didn't run any Tren. I stayed off Tren this year. Mm-hmm. It's the first time I've not run Tren because it always fucks up my sleep. I ran pretty much the whole cycle. It was a gram of test, a gram of Masteron, and a gram of Primo.
Nice.
And that's what I ran all the way up until 10 days out. I ran...
What kind of test?
9 units of Serostim through the whole prep. And then I dropped everything 10 days out and just went to the Winstrol into the show. And that was pretty much it. And a little bit of diuretics right at the end.
Nice.
It was super simple.
When did you add the Winstrol in?
I started ramping it up 14 days out. So
okay.
I kept it to the very end.
How much did you run through the prep? And then how much... how much was it before you ramped it up to 200? I
started off at, I think I went to 50, 100, 150, then 200. Just kind of ramped it up like that.
And then when did the 50 start, out of curiosity?
14 days out.
Oh, 14 days out. Wow. Yeah. Crazy. Huh, that's dope.
Yeah, it was high dose, short period of time. You know, I figure, I don't want to name names, but I talked to some other coaches that have worked with some high level guys, and it's an approach that I've heard other people use, and I wanted to give it a try this year. I don't think it's any big secret. We've talked about it, but another coach that I talked to that works with pretty high level guys. So I was like, fuck it, I'll try it.
So what is the type of test you ran, and then what's the type of test you ran first?
I just run enanthate all through the prep. I probably should switch to prop at the end, but I tend to flatten out when I take tests low. I think it depends. Everybody's different. Like some guys get watery on higher doses of test. I generally do not. I stay pretty dry. And so I keep my test a little bit higher, and then since I don't need to yank it quick to get dried out, I don't use prop. Although I think that's the advantage of using prep, is if you need to dry out quickly at the end and let the DHTs do their work. Maybe in hindsight, I would do that the next time. I see guys like kind of run a mix of both sometimes, or switch. But I think if you wanted to play it safe, probably switching to prep like a month out or 6 weeks out would be the safer bet. So that way you can manipulate things quickly.
Mm-hmm. So it was about like 3 grams total through prep.
Yeah.
So what was, I guess, how did your estrogen feel? How did you feel in general, like mentally, with like your mass and your primo being about 2 grams and then your test being 1?
My estrogen was completely crushed at the end. I think when I got my blood work done, my estradiol was a 3.
Ooh, damn. Crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what you got to do to dry out and to be hard.
When did you get your blood work done though? When it was a 3?
It was a couple weeks out. It was before I started the Winstrol.
Okay.
And then I got it done right after prep. Honestly, my blood work this year stayed pretty decent, man. It was shocking. I mean, I guess because the run of the Winstrol was short, it wasn't enough time to really make my liver enzymes go through the roof. But my liver enzymes were not bad.
Was it you who said that your blood work was almost better when you took it 2 weeks out, in the off season?
Yeah.
What did it look like? What was the difference?
My lipids were better. My mainly lipids. I don't know. I probably eat too much McDonald's in the off season.
Gotcha.
I think that's the big difference. You know, you're doing cardio. I'm terrible about doing cardio in the off season. I'm an old guy. I should probably be doing cardio, but I fucking suck at doing cardio.
I fucking hate it. I hate it in the off season too.
I'll do it on prep, but I get up in the morning. I'll see the elliptical downstairs, and I tell myself I'm going to do it, and then I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. I don't know why I hate cardio so much, man. It fucking sucks.
I don't think you're not alone, bro. I think there's a lot of people that share that same.
It's just mindless and boring. I think that's the part. I love lifting. I'm at the gym 7 days a week.
I mean, the only thing that got me through with this prep is like being able to do Stairmaster, because then I could just work on my phone for the entire time that I was doing it. But if I'm doing something where, like, I don't know, I have to do some kind of cardio where I can't do something else at the same time, then it feels like you're wasting away your time sometimes.
Yeah, that's my thing, and I got ADHD too, man. So I'm like, want to move on to the next thing. I'm like, when the fuck is this going to be over? So
how did you feel mentally throughout all of your prep then? If your estrogen ended up being crashed at the very end, you think your estrogen was high in the beginning?
No, it was decent at the beginning. I used to be a high estrogen converter, but I'm not anymore. I don't know what changed. I guess just being leaner. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only thing I notice when estrogen gets buried is my joints get achy. I don't notice anything mood-wise, really.
Okay,
I don't know. Good. Maybe I'm a little like lethargic, but you drink enough energy drinks, you can cancel that out.
Yeah.
Enough ephedrine and Red Bulls, and that you're good to go.
Red Bulls.
That's the secret. No, don't go do that, folks. I'm just joking, kind of. But that's my secret: ephedrine and Red Bulls. No, other than just being achy, like definitely like I'm old and beat up, man. You'll see when you get older, but like all your little injuries and shit kind of come out of the woodwork when your estrogen's crashed. You can feel them. I know you got the beat up knee right now. I've had 5 knee operations. My knees get pretty creaky at the end.
Dude, that's the part that scares me. Every single time towards the end of prep, always, it's where everything starts feeling achy and very susceptible for damage. And obviously, my personal opinion is like, yeah, part of it is estrogen for me. But normally we try to keep the estrogen in a reasonable range throughout all of prep except for peak week. Peak week is when, test drops, aromatase inhibitors increase, like aromasin increases, and then the Winstrol increases. So I feel like most of it is honestly sometimes the Winstrol for me.
Yeah, Winstrol's bad for joints, man. It definitely makes you feel creaky. And it's how it affects the glucomineralocorticoid receptor. I try to say burying my estrogen until the last 2 weeks. And then that's when I think this year I was just running a little too much of the DHT derived compounds. Maybe I could have kept my tests a little higher. I don't know. But if you look at it and if you're objective about it and you think about it, it's when do most bodybuilders have catastrophic injuries? It's always at the end of prep.
Yeah.
When guys are tearing muscles. I mean, you're a young guy, but like Dorian Yates, all the massive injuries he had were always at the end of prep.
Yeah.
I think you have to be really careful with training. And it's like the last 2 weeks, man, like, are you really going to gain any muscle?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that part of it's done, especially as you get older. How old are you?
I'm in my late 20s.
Yeah, man, you still got some runway in front of you. But like when you get in your late 30s and shit, I think you have to be, your strategy for lifting really starts to have to evolve. And you have to consider the injury risk of everything that you do. I think that's been the biggest change for me as a master's bodybuilder. Is I used to go balls to the wall on everything when I was in my 20s and didn't give a fuck about injury risk on anything. And now that's considered in the equation when I'm looking at my training and how I do my training. It's you have
Absolutely.
to live to lift another day. If you're hurt, you're not going to make progress. If you're beat up, you're not going to make progress. So that's always a consideration that I'm making when I'm lifting.
I want to ask you about how all your protocols will like probably go through them, because I'm very curious about how they're different for someone, say, you doing your training, doing your bodybuilding regimen at your age versus someone like the average age of pro bodybuilding these days, like 20 to 35. But real quick before we go into that, though, I just want to say, like, I think the one thing that's kind of frustrating, though, about being at the end of prep and then those injuries happening is like, yeah, you're very susceptible to them, but sometimes these things will happen out of nowhere too. Yeah. You'll be as careful as possible and they'll still happen. I know the most recent occurrence, Nick Walker in his hamstring and then C-bone in his bicep. And the craziest thing about this bursitis that I have, this prepatellar bursitis, is I literally wasn't doing anything strenuous. I just went on one of my knees to do a single arm lat pull down, and then I went on one of my other knees to do a single arm lat pull down, and I didn't hit anything. I didn't feel any issues the entire time, but then it started getting inflamed that night. So literally, like, I could have just had the perfect frequency or perfect tiny shift in movement that just happened to like move my freaking, cause this prepatellar bursitis and just stimulate the bursa to get inflamed or to burst. I
mean, when you're at the end of prep, you're so dry. Your immune system is suppressed. Everything is, you're in a fragile state. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, anything can tip you over the edge, really. I mean, a shitty night of sleep can do it. I mean, mm-hmm. you're just trying to make it into the show without, being as put together as you possibly can. But I mean, it's always a problem at the end of prep. I mean, there's always risk. Mm-hmm. And there's some things you just are beyond your control. So I try to control the things I can't control, and the other stuff you just you deal with it when it happens. Sorry, right. My dogs are freaking out.
No, you're good, man. By the way, guys, I didn't even do the intro, but we have the IFBB Pro bodybuilder, coach, and retired tech CEO at the prime age of 50, Paul Barnett. I always insert that randomly just so my my editors can help me put it in the teaser. But I never do it on time. Yeah, so I guess what would you say is probably some of the biggest things that you, in your regimen, you go about differently than someone who's like the age of 20 or 35?
When you're younger, you can be more aggressive with compounds, such as orals. I mean, you definitely can be more aggressive with orals when you're younger. Your liver's functioning at a higher capacity than, say, somebody my age. You can be, stomach's going to be tougher. You could just food in general. Food, you can eat more. You can do more with food when you're younger. Same thing with training. I try to, with older bodybuilders, I try to stay away from the harsher compounds, limit them. You find that at some point, it seems like pushing milligrams matters more than the actual compound choice.
Yeah,
is what I've seen. So if you can stick with something like Test and Primo or Test and Masteron for your off season and GH, things that are relatively safe, you can get them more aggressive with dosing. And I find that you get better results from that than running, say, something that's more toxic. And when you're younger, you can be more aggressive. I mean, hell, guys are going out. I was going out and getting hammered when I was in my 20s and getting up and going to the gym and taking D-ball before my workout on top of it,
Savage.
Right? Yeah, I can't do that now, man. I do that now, I'll be in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing Jaeger bombs and D-ball at 50 years old. So, you just, it's really, you got to be a little more careful with everything, a little more careful with your compound choices. You got to take breaks. You got to be a little more careful with how you work out. You have to be a little more meticulous with your diet. I joke about the McDonald's, but I really don't eat trash that often. Just, not just counting macros and stuff like that, but your actual food choices, things that are going to cause gut issues. I see a lot of bodybuilders, like things that start to accumulate as bodybuilders get older. Gut issues seem to be a huge thing. And I think it's twofold. I think it's from pushing food, and I think it's from overusing orals. Orals seem to absolutely trash your stomach after a while. I see a lot of guys end up in their 40s or late 30s, end up having ulcerative colitis and shit like that.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I mean, you see it all the time. Acid reflux, all these different things that you deal with from some of it is from the PED choices. So I think you have to be a little more careful as you age. Limit. I'm not saying that there's not a time, like say with Tren. This is the first year I've actually ever prepped without Tren. I wanted to see if I could do it. And I got a result out of it. I proved that you don't absolutely need Tren on
Got
prep.
a pro card without Tren.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I mean, obviously mine's not nearly as crazy as yours because mine was men's physique, but, I just think it's kind of ridiculous whenever you see those comments from someone that's a little bit ignorant on, like, say, a mini clip, some random anonymous comment that's like, every bodybuilder, every pro uses Tren no matter what. Every single one on stage is on Tren. You can't get your pro card without Tren. Or Tren's God's Nectar. And I'm just like, bro, like, that's like such, like, very negative misinformation that can cause a lot of people, like, their health.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Tren is fucking awesome. But it comes with a cost, man.
Yeah.
It is indeed the devil's nectar, man. You're making the deal with the devil. Like when I look great when I run Tren, I feel like absolute dog shit. I know I've got like a 6-week window.
Yeah. Dude, like, this is my first time ever running Tren, and I start at 50 milligrams, but quickly titrated up to 100 milligrams. And then finally we ended up at 150. And this is, from what I've heard, this is extremely relatively small dose compared to other pros.
Yeah, it's a very small dose.
I didn't feel anything at first. I felt totally fine. But as we kept running the 150 for longer, because I was doing another show, like 4 weeks after the last one, I could slowly feel the change in my mental perspective. And obviously we're short when we're low on calories, right? But I can feel that the lack of calories, especially the lack of fats, seem to hyper-exaggerate, like, the things that I felt like I was susceptible to while being on Tren. It wasn't something crazy, but it's not something that I want, in my life. It's not a mental perspective that I want even an ounce of in my life, unfortunately.
Yeah, you start to get, like... Everybody's a little different, but I'm a pretty chill dude. I don't get upset or angry very easily. You seem like a chill guy, but like I get almost like apathetic where I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and it's almost like if something bothers you or whatever, you can just cut them out like that or cut it out like that.
Yeah, like I would, probably wasn't nice to some of my friends and stuff. Like people did something little piss me off, I'd just completely ignore them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need that guy. I don't like the way he looks today. I'm not talking to him.
Yeah. Most people consider me pretty, at least I've been told, pretty patient and chill. And then I got my genetics done and said I had, I don't remember what the combination of genetic was, but we were saying like personality types, and that is like part of my genetics is that personality type. And then I also have this combo that's like common in MMA fighters where they like, I don't know if it's like they lack less dopamine or whatever, but it's easier for them to react to certain things because they're not as trying to remember the word, to be honest. I'm just fucking ruining this right now.
I feel like I'm wired similarly, man. I'm pretty chill. I don't get rattled easily. I can stay pretty calm in pressure. I don't know. I feel like I actually thrive better in pressure situations. But I think if you're an athlete, you have to sort of have that in you.
Yeah.
People that excel at, even bodybuilding. I mean, it's, when you get on the stage, man, it's almost like an out of body experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're there, but you're not there. You just go on autopilot. And some people, I think, get so, like, I don't know. Do you get nervous when you go on stage?
I'm gonna be real, bro. I don't get nervous with a lot of things, but being on stage is probably the one thing I do get nervous about. But normally I'll prep myself. I'll take some CBD and just take some deep breaths and not overthink about it, and then I'll get on and I'll be fine. But I think part of it could also be like I don't feel like I have enough posing practice for my shows recently. Yeah,
I mean, being on autopilot helps, but like I'll get a little anxious lining up. But like when I'm out there, like I'm on autopilot, like it doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people, like you'll see people up on stage that are visibly shaking and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. And it's something about posing too that I need to improve myself, is like being a lot more smooth, not looking fidgety, like I'm trying to keep resetting my pose into like something that I feel like fits better.
Well, I was a music major in college. I actually studied music, and you have to perform a lot. And one of the things that they teach you, I think that it translated well over for bodybuilding, is the more you rehearse, the more you practice.
Yep.
The easier it is when you actually perform, because you're just on autopilot. You don't think about it.
Yeah.
You can also practice bad habits. I've seen dudes do that with posing, where they do, and I'm not saying my posing's the greatest. I'm very mediocre, but I do practice every day on prep. How often are you doing posing practice?
So the problem is I've been practicing every day to every other day, but my mistake is I'm practicing a lot of classic posing, and I'm stepping on stage for men's physique, and I do practice some men's physique posing. However, I did not get a coach before my last show to tell me what I should be doing correctly. So I've been practicing the wrong thing.
Yeah, you've been
the entire time,
the wrong
like
things,
you just said. And so now I finally have a posing coach. We're actually going to meet in like a couple hours after this, but which is nice because he's here in Tampa, so that'll be really perfect too. But there's just so many things that I need to fix.
Yeah, and that's the bad thing. Like here at the end, then you start thinking about it, and when you're thinking about things, then it makes it harder. But yeah, I work with a coach, and I'll usually I'll meet with the coach once a week or once every other week, and then I'll try to do 20 to 30 minutes of posing every day on prep. I try to pose in the off season, but when I'm fat and hairy, I don't like posing.
Yeah, nobody does.
I'm like in the posing room, and people are like looking at me like, are you a bodybuilder?
I think that's a really good amount of time that you're practicing posing, though. I mean, I'm not surprised that you step on stage, like just basically being on autopilot with that much posing. Like, I feel like 20 to 30 minutes a day is like perfect.
Yeah, I'll usually start off at the beginning of prep. I'll start off with one round, and then I'll work my way up to going through 3 rounds, and then I'll hold the poses longer than what they're going to hold them on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, man, especially I'm a super heavy, but you'll see, like, I'll see the other super heavies that aren't in shape, and they're out there like completely gassed out and soaked in sweat on stage, from going through one round of posing, and I'm like, oh man, that's not a good look.
Yeah. And you were saying earlier about your clients that obviously like you would never prep them with the same way that you prepped yourself. And obviously it varies per client as everyone responds differently. But how would you say that you prep and peak your clients compared to yourself and depending on what their variances are?
I have certain principles I operate by, but this was my coach that told me this, that prepping people is a bit like surfing. It's you catch the wave, and the wave is going to tell you where you need to go. You just need to stay in the center of the wave. And I think that's the nuance of prepping people. I've gotten better at it. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I've had a couple pro cards this year and had some people do some really well at some bigger shows. But you just sort of have to see how people react and respond to it and not try to force the issue. Like there's some people you'll see like they're starting to rapidly lose weight and you got to push food back up. There's other guys that it doesn't matter how low you take food, you just got to keep pushing them harder. You can't have a one size fit all approach, and I think that's a mistake that I maybe made in the past, and I see a lot of I don't know, more inexperienced coaches or other coaches make, where they try to prep everybody the way they prep themselves because it worked for them, but that doesn't work for a client. It's really unique. Now, there are certain principles. One, you got to get fat free. You know that. And then, that's first and foremost. You got to get all the fat off. Once all the fat's off, then you can start filling guys back up. I have kind of adjusted this year. I like having people ready a little early and then backing down the cardio and pushing the food up a little bit.
How early is early?
Yeah, and I think that results in a better look on stage.
How early would you say is early?
I like having people ready a couple weeks out, like 2 weeks out. And what I mean by ready is fat-free. Where only thing left is to pull some water off. I think I was pretty much ready about 4 weeks out for my show this year.
Damn.
Which is a weird feeling, man. It's like just coasting. I don't like coasting.
I don't like coasting, bro. I felt miserable coasting for like 4 to 6 weeks this prep.
Yeah,
I felt like it was a breeze, and then by the time that I hit that lowest body fat weight, that I could not get lower, even if I was just crushing the cardio, crushing the calories, and like waking up with absolutely zero energy and like very irritable and short. Like I feel like that's kind of where you start knowing that like you're there, is when it's just if you've done everything, you've done the refeeds, it's not moving still, and you have absolutely zero energy whatsoever.
That's when I'll start pushing the food back up a bit and backing the cardio down. I try to get guys fresh. I also, it's age dependent too. Like younger guys, you can push harder. If guys have more muscle mass, you can push them a little harder. Guys that have less muscle mass, guys that are older, you kind of got to be a little more careful. That's a compromise you might have to make with is it worth taking another pound of fat off or flattening somebody out completely? So there's some of that nuance. There's some dudes that just never get fat. There's guys I've had where you can push them balls to the wall and they don't flatten out, and then there's other guys that I flatten out easy, man. Like I have to.
Same.
I get super flat. I don't think my carbs ever got below 200 grams on a medium day. Or no, on my low days and my medium days, I don't think I ever got below 300 or 400 on this whole prep.
Oh, whoa, that's awesome, bro.
And I've got an insane metabolism, man. I was doing 2,000 gram high days at the end.
Wait, you're at what?
2,000 grams of carbs I was doing on my high days at the end.
Damn, dude. How the fuck did you digest that?
A lot of it was candy.
Fire. That's awesome.
A lot of gummy bears and Sour Patch Kids and breakfast cereal, Captain Crunch.
So sick.
It's terrible.
That's awesome though. But did you use
but that's why I say you can't prep everybody the same way, because if I tried to do that with 99% of people, they would be fat. But I have an insane metabolism, man.
Did you use GDAs or insulin?
Oh yeah, I use insulin, man, on the high days only. But at the end I'll drop. Yeah, and I use some berberine too. At the end, I pull the insulin out because insulin can make you look watery. I think for my carb up, I used a little bit of insulin, nothing crazy.
What would you say is a little bit for you, this prep?
Like 5 units of human log every other meal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a tiny little bit. But, you know, on the days like where you're pushing, you know, on some of the big refeed days when I was doing 2,000 grams of carbs, I was doing 100 units of insulin.
I mean, 2,000 grams of carbs is a fuck ton, so.
Yeah, that was the most I've ever eaten. My coach was like, eat as many as you can. And I'm like, I'm going to try to do 2,000.
That's so savage. That's awesome. Holy shit. I don't think I've ever done that in my entire life. I don't think I've ever even been able to get
I'm
to
like the only dude
honestly.
that loses weight after prep is over.
Still? You don't think that's
down.
because you pull out the compounds or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of us pulling out the compounds. And I just, like I said, my body, I was a basketball player when I was younger. I think I was like 175, 180 pounds when I graduated college. My body just wants to go back to being
Holy
that.
shit. At like 6'1"-ish, 6'2"?
Yeah.
Damn.
My first show back, was it 2021? Was my first show back. I was 185 on stage.
Your first show back in 2021, you were 185 on stage.
I was 185,
And you
I
were
was
like
250 this year.
Jesus, dude, what? How is that possible? Do you remember what you were running?
If you go to my profile, you can see the picture there. It's pinned to the top of.
I actually think to be honest, I actually think I did see that.
Yeah, it's pinned to the top. But yeah, it was.
Yo, that is so sick. That is awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty nutty, man. I over dieted for that first show, though.
Do you remember what you were? Were you even running that much for the first show and prior, like the off season before that?
I was running around a gram on the first show, somewhere around there. It wasn't anything crazy.
Damn. Do you think the result of this is just like some really damn good off seasons?
More food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, eating a lot of food. I have to hammer food. I mean, most of it's food.
Yeah,
I would say.
I feel like most of bodybuilding is. I know that there's people out there that aren't so ingrained into bodybuilding that like to argue, you know, the reason he looks like that is because of steroids. But I mean, I think most of us people who are experienced in bodybuilding, most of the people that listen to this podcast understand that food is the most important, most anabolic thing first.
Well, you know it,
like
man. You go to the gym, there's fucking 50 dudes that are blasting cycles and they never look any different.
Yeah. Right.
They all look like shit. The difference between them and a bodybuilder is a bodybuilder actually follows a structured diet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many there's gym bros that run crazy cycles. You've talked to them.
Yeah.
And I you know, it's terrible, man. I don't want to rat anybody out, but I was in the bathroom and I overheard some guys talking, and they were talking about all the gear they were taking, and I walked around the corner, I was expecting to see some super heavyweights, and I was like, what?
Damn.
These kids don't even look like they lift.
Do you remember what they were saying?
Well, they were talking about running a bunch of tren and, you know, taking Anadrol and all this stuff, and I'm like, calm the fuck down, man. You don't even look like you lift weights. And really, you know, you see a lot of people that lift hard, you see a lot of people that take gear, so the only piece of the puzzle that's left that they're not following is diet.
Yeah. And that's like number one in my opinion. I mean, obviously you got to train something.
I mean, that's really what prep is all about, is getting your food dialed in.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gaining size too. It's like, what the fuck is the gear going to do if you're not eating in a surplus? Like, yeah, you might recomp a little bit, but then when you jump off the gear, how much actual muscle mass did you gain when you're completely off, right?
I think that was
a
big difference for me, how I put on all that weight. I mean, it was, Jesus Christ, you can do the math on it. It was 65 pounds? No, so 65 pounds of stage weight in 3 years I put on. And
that's so nutty.
I treated my off seasons like a contest prep. I weighed and measured every fucking thing I ate, man.
Yeah. Same. I think it's fun that way because you just fucking know you're making the gains. My whole entire off season, I was doing the same thing. It's almost like I don't know. There's some people though that are very it's like it's a genetic thing, you know. Some people actually really enjoy logging down everything and measuring everything to a T like a scientist. And I know you and I are both one of those people because I remember you were they were mentioning that you, I think, put like maybe your gear stack or something in an Excel sheet.
Oh, I have
podcast?
I have everything tracked for the last 7 years since I've come back. Everything,
Nice.
my diet, my gear, everything.
Yeah,
it's all logged. I should
I
put
do
it
too.
up for people to download at some point. I thought about it.
I have everything tracked, but it is a mess because it's just in fucking Apple Notes.
I have it in spreadsheets. I put it in Google Sheets.
So what was your diet like then in these 3 years of you gaining 60 plus pounds?
Carb cycling. I run carb cycling. I have IBS, so I have to be real careful with my food choices. But
Ooh.
I'll run.
Yeah, how do you deal with that?
I just eat super bland. People laugh at my food. They make fun of me for eating plain ass chicken. I don't season anything. It's just salt. The only thing I put on is salt. I don't use any hot sauce. I just eat chicken and rice and beef and rice, and I really can't eat any vegetables because they fuck my stomach up too.
Damn, that sucks.
So
Fuck.
it's just meat and rice. Meat
Not even
and
just like
potatoes.
spinach?
Nah, man, it screws my stomach up. I'll occasionally have some stuff. But I mean, mostly just super bland diet. But I carb cycle, so we'll run. I give myself a break. Like I'll take 1 day a week where I pull my food down really low. It gives my gut a break, resets insulin sensitivity. Sometimes I'll even do fasting on that day. Like I'll pull down and do like a 24-hour fast sometimes.
Nice.
And then
I know
in the
Steve's
off
a big
season,
fan of those.
what's that?
Steve?
Yes, yeah, Steve. Yeah, Steve's the one that kind of turned me on to that.
Take a shot, Steve.
Yeah,
He listens to the podcast and he says, every time I say Steve, I have to take a shot.
he and I and Chase and all of us were gonna have a booth at the Olympia.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
I'm fucking
so
jealous. I don't think I'm going to be making it this year. I really wanted to.
Oh man, that'd be cool if you
link up
came
with you
by.
guys.
But yeah, I'll cycle my carbs and my fats. Like the days I take my carbs really high, I'll keep the fats low. I'll have on my low carb days, I'll push the fats up a little bit, but I'll get crazy with the carbs. Sometimes on the high carb days, I'll push them up, like I told you, up 2,000 grams, I think is my record. And then I'll use insulin on the high days only. So it's 1 to 2 times a week. I'll use insulin, push the carbs really high, fill out, and just run that. And when you pull the calories down on some of the days, it keeps you lean. I think that was the big part of staying lean in the off season, and just pushing up, not getting fat, keeping the food simple. And just, it wasn't anything rocket science. My gear was pretty simple. I mostly ran in the off seasons, mostly just test Primo GH and some insulin. That's pretty much it. Super simple.
That's basically what I did in the off season too, but without the insulin. Have you ever dealt with IGF-1?
No, I've never used it. Sort of my thought process on it. The only good IGF-1 is Increlex, which is incredibly expensive and impossible, pretty much impossible to get here in the United States. And if you're running insulin in GH and eating a bunch of carbs, your IGF-1 is going to be through the roof anyway. So I don't know that there's any point. And also IGF-1, I've had cancer before. IGF-1 and cancer don't mix well.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So that's another concern.
Do you mind me asking about the cancer? Sorry if it's a sensitive subject.
Oh no, you can talk about anything. Yeah, it was nothing. I had a melanoma on my back, and then I had to have all the lymph nodes removed from my neck. I don't know if you can see the scar or not, but you can see the lump, like how my neck sort of deformed. Had to have all that. They caught it fairly early. I had to have some lymph nodes removed and some treatments. It was just one of those things, man. It was from laying in tanning beds. Being a white guy, laying in tanning beds, and just bad genetics.
How was it caught?
That's a crazy story, man. I was in a car wreck, and the doctor that examined me in the ER noticed the spot on my back, and he's like, "You got to go get that checked out."
Damn.
And so, yeah, he saved my life. I had a reoccurrence of it on my stomach. That's I have a giant scar on my stomach from where I had to have a piece of my stomach removed for melanoma. So definitely makes you reevaluate life, and it's one of the reasons why I'm like, well, I'm going to make the most of it and try to get my pro card and
Yeah. Run 3 grams, baby.
I mean, you just never know, man. I mean, fuck it. I mean, life's short, man. You got to make the most of each day. Live it to its fullest.
Right, and you know what you're doing, so that's the biggest thing.
I mean, it's still dangerous, man. It's like, I tell people, bodybuilding is like racing a motorcycle, man. It's when you're going 180, 190 miles around the track, you can be safer with a helmet and a tracksuit on and knowing how to handle the bike and things like that you definitely are safer, but you're still taking a risk. But I don't, it's always, here's my thing, man. Life's meant to be lived. Mm-hmm. Sitting on the sidelines, on your couch is not how I want to live my life. I want to experience things. I want to make the most out of it. And I think the biggest thing that when you talk to people like priests and whatnot that talk to people when they're dying, the biggest thing that people talk about when they're dying is the regrets, the things they wish they had done. Mm-hmm. They wish they had, they wish they had done this. Nobody thinks they should have watched more Netflix. Nobody thinks they should have played it, more safe with, whatever. Nobody feels like they should put more money in their 401k when they die. It's just like, man, I should have taken that trip. Man, I should have talked to that girl. Man, I should have tried out for that football team. I should have talked to that friend that I was mad at. It's those are the regrets that people have, and I don't. Mm-hmm. When life's temporary, I mean, you're young. I don't think I was aware of how temporary it was until I had cancer, and then it sort of was just a brutal reminder of like, man, this could all be gone tomorrow, and I could have missed out.
Yeah, I wasn't aware, or I didn't care enough for the longest time, and then I had my 2 best friends pass away like before my eyes in the last 3-4 years, as well as some other incidences that were pretty surprising and obviously like life-changing. But it was really cool because it was a very huge change of perspective, and I don't know if it was a combination of that plus being in a place where like people are open to like taking shrooms and having new perspectives and opening up that neuroplasticity. But my perspective in life completely changed. I used to be very negative about everything and used to hate the world and stuff because I had a pretty like controlling childhood. But then after all the incidents happened, my best friend was one of the nicest dudes I've ever known. He would just do the most selfless things for everybody, and he also went through the most crazy experiences, such as like watching his mom be shot and dead when he was like 7, and then his dad hung himself when he was like an older teenager. He was taking care of his 2 siblings the entire time. Went to the military, or their house burned down, flooded, and then he went to the military, and then he ended up going to prison off of this mistake. Finally got out like 3 years later, like super early, because he was like a firefighter and saved a bunch of lives, and then saved this kid who was the kid of the head of the police, the police chief. Just craziest things, and obviously as he was my roommate, he would just do the nicest things for people, and I would just watch him do it. And he was always about love and everything. And then the next day, he was living his life, having the most fun, and then the next day we're at his deathbed at the hospital, like asking if he can be kept on life support, having like an argumented fight with his family. And then they chose not to, and he's gone. So kind of tells me just love the people, appreciate my relationships as long as they last, because they can die tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, life is temporary, and it's like I get dudes all the time giving me shit. Like you're gonna die from doing all this. I'm like, bro, we're all gonna die, all of us. And having the experience with the hallucinogens too, it kind of makes you, I don't know, it kind of makes you realize that the universe is all kind of, we're all interconnected anyway, and there's a little bit more to things. I could go down another rabbit hole with that one, but yeah, I mean, it's, just live life, be kind, make the most of it, try to help people where you can. Have experiences. I mean, for me, it's about relationships and experiences, just getting out, and enjoying life, making friends, doing things that other people aren't doing. I mean, life's precious. It's a gift, man. Make the most of it.
Yeah, agreed. That's really why, honestly, one of the biggest reasons why I created this podcast is I just really enjoy conversing with people and making like relationships, especially with people who enjoy the same things as I do. You know, it's a lot more fun than just posting your fucking physique to look sick and then people just following you because they think you look dope. Like, I just don't feel any connection from that. Not in the same way.
It's good for views, though.
Yeah, yeah, it helps for sure.
No, I, honestly, that's the cool thing with bodybuilding and stuff that I've gotten from it is I've met some of my best friends and you know, just some really cool people. There's some weirdos. Definitely some weirdos out there, but I've met some really cool people and had fantastic experiences.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like any of the medications that we spoke about today may benefit you, such as BPC 157, GH secretagogues such as Tesamorelin, IGF-1, oxandrolone troche, Semaglutide, then you can obtain these from Transcend HRT, and the link for that will be in the bio. If you feel like you're experiencing symptoms of low testosterone, such as depression, anxiety, lack of motivation, as well as lack of sex drive, then you can get this checked out as well by getting your blood work done at Transcend, and they will provide you expert medical analysis. Transcend HRT has worked with many professional bodybuilders and pro athletes, such as Thor Bjornsson, Phil Heath, and Jeremy Buendia. And if you feel like this podcast has any relevancy to you, I do believe that this clinic will provide of great benefit to you as well.
Reeling it back a little bit, what were like your calories during this off season? This 3-year off season, gaining 60 pounds of lean mass. Calorie to macro ratio.
Sometimes like I said, I cycle calories, so my high days could get as high as 8, 9, 10,000 calories sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
My low days could be as low as 2,000, even less sometimes. Medium days typically somewhere in the 5,000 to 6,000 calorie range on my off season. I think on contest prep I never got any lower than 3,200 on my low days. I start losing weight when I get below 4,000 calories usually.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah, that's sort of where my BMR is at. So it's a curse and a blessing having a metabolism like that because it makes contest prep way easier.
Mm-hmm.
It also makes putting on size a fucking pain in the ass. Like, people don't believe me when I talk about I look forward to contest prep.
I'm gonna be real. I'm not surprised that you enjoy McDonald's having to eat that much calories.
You have to sometimes to get it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to eat some trash sometimes to get it in. And not that I'm advising that, but no. Honestly, though, like, it's like contest prep is almost a break from the food, man. I just get tired of eating. Like, I've been bad over the last month or 6 weeks since my show. I just have not been. I've only been eating like 3 times a day. I just get fucking tired of eating. It's the first time in years I've taken a break from following a structured diet. But I think I'm going to get back on it here because I got to look good for the Olympia. I don't want to look like a fraud.
Yeah, that'll be fucking sick, dude.
Got to push some food back up.
Do you think you're ever going to try doing like Masters Olympia?
I mean, you have to qualify for it.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just take everything one show at a time. Like, I never go into shows with expectations. This is sort of a reframing a perspective that I've had, and I think that it's helped me be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people set themselves up for disappointment, and like, you go to bodybuilding shows, you really only see one happy person, and that's the person that got first place. Right? I mean, really, everybody else is mad. They're mad at their coach. They're mad at, the judges sucked.
Yeah.
There's politics in the judging, and all this stuff. I just like kind of like told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to be like that, man.
Right.
I'm just here to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hanging out with some friends. I'm going up there and I'm showing off all the hard work that I put in for my prep. And whatever happens, happens. I don't really give a fuck where I place. That's just, and it's funny, like, when I started doing that with all things, I think more success came my way from when I just kind of stopped caring about, not saying that I don't want to put my best out there.
Yeah, because you are putting your best. You're still working your hardest, exactly.
I'm working my hardest, but I put the expectations aside. It's kind of like going on a date with a girl and expecting that she's going to marry you. Right? I mean, like first date.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? I don't know. Just just chill, let the universe come to you. I mean, that's sort of my approach to things. And I've found that when I do that, that success seems to, whether it's in business or whether it's in bodybuilding or whatever, it seems that success comes more readily when you just kind of accept things as they come and just be chill about stuff.
I side more with you, and I resonate more with your perspective. I know there's a lot of people who do resonate with the perspective of you're here to win, and you must vision yourself winning, and that's going to make you the winner. But in my eyes, that's what I think of the entire time I'm training and working hard and dieting, that, you know, I'm in this to be my very best self. But then when I step on stage, I'm like, I'm here to have fun, and whatever the judges decide is my placement, is what my placement is. And if it's not good enough, I'll just keep going. That's it.
Well, there was
just gonna enjoy it.
There was Stephen Covey. He was sort of a business guru, motivational guy, but he had what he called the 90-10 principle, where he said, you know, you worry about, the only thing you should spend any effort worrying about is the 90% which you can control. The 10% that's out of your control, you should spend no time or effort or bandwidth worrying about, like what the judges think, how you place, what goes on the stage, all that stuff, getting injuries. A lot of that stuff's just out of your control. You can't spend any time being stressed or worried about that. You just let the stuff, if you focus on the things you can control, you're gonna have good results. You know, so if you focus on your diet, if you're focusing on how you train, if you focus on, you know, your rest and recovery, all that stuff, and you do your best at that. My goal is I compete with myself. I want to come out each show and put the best version of me out there that I can possibly put out there. And if I do that, then I feel like I always have a good chance. That's sort of my thought process on it. And it's the same thing with, you know, I've had some success in business. It's the same thing. Work hard and have fun doing it. And then a lot of times success will just come.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the best we can do. Put that step forward and the universe will meet you there. Just got to put in the work. So, before we wrap up, we got like 10-ish. I want to ask you about your training. You said you do a lot of RP style training. Like, what kind of training do you do with both your clients and yourself?
Here's my thing with, I do RP style training. I wouldn't say it's 100% RP, but it's very similar to, I bought Mike's spreadsheet like 5 or 6 years ago, and I essentially have been doing the same workout pretty much ever since. I used to be a HIIT style trainer when I was younger. I used to go heavy, more of a power builder, I guess, style of training, and I just kept getting hurt. And I just kept getting hurt and getting, you know, tearing things, and my joints hurt all the time. And I'm like, this is not sustainable. So I had to figure out a new way to train, and I wanted to keep myself in the gym. I love being in the gym. And so I started doing more of a reps and reserve style of training, more volume, more frequency, being more meticulous about exercise selection. Like that's another thing I think that a lot of guys miss. Like when I'm choosing an exercise, I'm thinking to myself, what is the cost versus benefit ratio of this? You know, like for example, let's say deadlifts or barbell bench. Barbell bench is probably the most dangerous exercise in the gym. You can look at the statistics on it. There's the majority, I think it was something like 90% of pec tears that are surgically repaired come from barbell bench press. It's, you know, do you really need a bench press for bodybuilding? Like with a free weight barbell? Probably not. So I stopped doing it, or like deadlifts, you know, deadlifts are cool. It's cool to yank that much weight off the floor, but I don't know how much they really contribute to bodybuilding, and they have a high fatigue cost. Yeah. They have a high cost to your you know, CNS and recovery. It like I could do 8 sets of machine rows versus the 1 set of heavy deadlifts, and probably get way more out of that 8 sets of machine rows than I would that 1 set of deadlifts from stimulus. So I really started thinking about that and considering that when I'm doing programming of my workout. And my number one goal is to keep myself in the gym and to keep growing. And if I'm beat up and I'm hurt, can't do that.
Right.
So that was sort of my approach to training. And training is a fluid thing. I used to have like my workouts mapped out for months in advance and, trying to program out. And like, you really just can't do that. It's the surfing analogy. You have to see how your body's doing from day to day, week to week. And I used to, one of my buddies is an exercise physiologist, and he kind of made my head explode. I was having a lot of problems with elbow pain, and I told him, like, what can I do? The skull crushers always make my elbows hurt. What can I do to fix this? And he's like, don't do fucking skull crushers. And I'm like, I'm like, all right, that's a simple answer. I'm the dummy bodybuilder that just keeps trying to do the same thing over and over again. That's making me hurt and injured. Why not just pick another exercise? Yeah. So that was a simple thing. With my clients, people seem to treat training like religion. I tell people, you can do both ways. You can do high intensity, low volume. You can do high volume reps in reserve, but it's a sliding scale. Each comes at a cost. If you're going to do reps in reserve, if you're going to pull the intensity down, you need to do more volume. You need to do more frequency if you're going to have the right amount of stimulus. So you're going to need to be in the gym more. If you don't like being in the gym more, that's probably not the training program for you. If you're a guy that likes slinging heavy weights around and you don't mind the injury risk that comes along with it, some people seem to be resilient to having injury risk or whatever, or injuries, I don't know, then you can do high intensity, train to failure, heavy weights, but you're going to need to train less. You're going to need to do lower volume. You're going to need more time to recover. So really just pick your poison, whatever works best for you. The main thing is you need to train with the intent of being a bodybuilder. I think people forget sometimes that our goal is to grow the muscle, not to get stronger, not necessarily. It's not to say that as you get bigger that you're not going to have strength, but strength is a secondary result of getting bigger, not the primary thing that we're chasing. I think guys that primarily chase strength, in my experience, never make good bodybuilders.
Right. I mean,
they just don't.
Unless you're like Ronnie Coleman or kind of Larry Wheels, and you have.
I'm pretty sure Ronnie Coleman could have mowed lawns and been Mr. Olympia. So I mean, because his freak genetics. I mean, I can't do that, right?
I can't either. I have to pick one. My body.
There's only been one Ronnie Coleman in the history of entire. They're genetic outliers. People love to point to the outliers. It's like Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman. I'm like, yeah. There's only been two dudes that have done that in the 50-some years or 60 years, 70 years, whatever it is, training bodybuilding. Most people train this way. Pretty much every bodybuilder I know does some sort of either PPL or growth split. They all with moderate to higher volume. They all train the same way. Yeah. It's pretty much everybody eats the same way. They eat chicken and rice or meat and rice. Everybody pretty much takes the same gear.
People just really love to see the excel, the people that excel the most, the people that are just out of this world, amazing and fascinating. But we can't all be that fascinating. We all can't be the strongest person and the biggest person in the room all the time.
Well, people like to point to the genetic outliers. Like, I play basketball. How fucking good at basketball do you need to be if you're 7 feet tall? Right? You literally can do everything wrong and probably play in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Like if you're 5'9" and you want to play in the NBA, your game needs to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Right? So 7 feet tall is the genetic equivalent of being Phil Heath. I doubt Phil Heath has to put much consideration or thought. No disrespect to him. He just won the genetic lottery. I doubt he has to put much thought or into his training. He could probably do anything and still look like Phil Heath.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But not that you want to train like the majority of people that are just average. You want to start there. And if you are a genetic outlier, then just kind of move out to the fringes. But I would say that that's a big mistake that a lot of people make, that they try to train, eat, take drugs like the freakazoid. Like, you wouldn't want to.
Yeah. That's my least favorite thing, is when people compare like what pros are taking to what they think they should be taking now. And I'm like, you guys literally just started. Like, work yourself up. there's a reason why they're taking a lot. It's probably because they've been taking that much for years.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't start yourself on 100 milligrams of Adderall right off the bat unless you're actually like that person.
When as you get bigger, you have more capacity to handle the drugs. More androgen receptors requires more androgens. When you're smaller, you don't have the androgen receptors to utilize all the drugs anyway. You're just gonna, all that's gonna happen is you're just gonna pile up and have a bunch of side effects. It would be like being 150 pounds and trying to bench 400.
Mm-hmm.
You're just gonna get crushed. Or you know, if you tried to eat, you know, a 160 pound guy tried to eat 2,000 grams of carbs like I did, you're just going to get fat.
Mm-hmm. You
know, you work your way up to that. I didn't used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my lecture on that.
What is a rep range that you normally go for yourself, and then you normally have for your clients? I'm sure it varies. I'm just curious because I got my genetics done and I found out like the rep range that seems to work the best for me.
I found for me, compound movements probably 10 to 12 reps. Mm-hmm. Isolation movements probably higher, like 15 to 20 in that range. I mean, you can look at the studies on hypertrophy. I mean, it goes down as low as 6 reps all the way up to 30. I think you can actually grow.
And I think a lot of this variance, though, is also like, you know, these are on groups, people, which will all vary themselves in probably what their best stimulus is. So, like, I noticed that I seem to grow more from higher reps, slightly higher reps.
Me too.
And then I got my genetics done, and it said that I had this thing called impaired muscle performance, which basically stated that I either had more or was more responsive to my type 1 fibers. So longer time under tension, higher reps.
Yep.
And I wasn't so good at strength. So
yeah, muscle fiber distribution plays a role into it too. How much, you know, what your makeup of type 1 to type 2 is. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tend to get strong. I can get really strong. I've done some powerlifting. I've been very strong, but I've also seemed to be, my joints and connective tissue don't seem to be able to withstand that type of. I mean, I have small joints. I have really small wrists, and I have a small waist. Which is great for bodybuilding, not so great for strength.
Yeah, same.
I mean, the guys that are good for strength are built like tree stumps. Right? You know, their waist is wider than their shoulders. Not so good for bodybuilding, great for powerlifting. Mm-hmm. I'm not built like that, so I can't handle those sorts of loads on my joints and connective tissue.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So, I mean, you really have to tailor to your body to a certain degree. But I always tell people to start off in the middle. I mean, the average, and then work your way out. It's why would you start off in what some outliers doing when you're probably, there's probably a 1 in 10,000 chance that you're going to be Phil Heath or whatever. It may even be less than that. I mean, I don't. You know, I think it's like basketball. I think it's 1 in 200,000 people are 7 feet tall. So why would you craft your basketball game like a 7-footer?
Yeah,
you would be better off training like somebody who's similar to you. Mm-hmm. Same in bodybuilding.
Last quick question, because we're out of time, and I wanted to ask this earlier and I totally forgot. But if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to answer this. But what would you say is like the highest dosages of what you were running in the off season to gain size versus like the lowest that you did? And I'm pretty sure you did mention that you were doing TRT for an off season for some time.
Yeah, I did. Dude, I just get tired of doing shots. I'm so fucking lazy, man. Like people ask me what my cycle was after my show, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It's just whenever I remember to take a shot, and it's just like that was sort of what my off season was this past year. It's like, shit, it's been 10 days since I took a shot. I guess I probably should take one. That's terrible, man. Well, I said, like, my contest prep is the biggest cycle I've ever done. That was 3 grams. Mm-hmm. A typical off season for me, like, I'll run, 750 to a gram of test and 600 to 800 of my anabolic, and then GH, 9-10 units of GH. I mean, that's pretty typical. That's what I do.
Do you ever feel
I run more on prep than I do in the off season.
Yeah, I do too. I think most do, at least. Do you ever find that has caused any issues, the amount of GH that you're on? Have you ever noticed 9 to 10 IUs, if that's caused any side effects or any significant changes, anything that you've had to deal with health-wise?
I've gone up to as high as 18. I played around with it a little bit. I know Chase runs 18. I tried to keep up with Chase. I couldn't feel my hands. I was like, dude, I don't know how the fuck you do this, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
My hands were like pork chops when I was trying to type on my computer. Like they just wouldn't work. They were so numb
for this shit.
Yeah, they were so numb. So I found, like 9 is sort of seems to be the sweet spot for me. No, not really. I mean, I remember when I first started back at 5, I would get a lot of water retention. The only thing I notice, my insulin sensitivity, everything seems to be good. I think a lot of that's diet related, but the only thing I notice at 9 is I get really tired. It makes me really fucking tired. But other than that, no, I don't have the numb hands. I don't.
Cool. Yeah.
I feel pretty good at it. Now I had to work up to that. I find like usually like you have to sort of taper up to it over a period of time. Start off with like a couple units and then move up, and then water retention seems to be an issue with people when they first start GH.
Yeah,
they get the ankles and shit like that, swelling and stuff.
Have you noticed any difference between pharma grade and like UGL, or not really?
The logical part of me, the computer scientist in me, it's either 191 or it's not. It's to me it's binary. It's either real or it's not. But then like when I take Serostim, it definitely seems to be better. I don't know if you've run both, but like there just seems to be some magic to the pharma. Yeah,
I have run pharma, and I don't know why I feel like it's a little bit better as well. But
it could be just a complete placebo.
Could be your head.
I wasted thousands of dollars on pharma GH on my prep.
Damn.
But I don't know. But the way I looked at it, like, look, man, I ran all pharma gear for my prep. It was not cheap. My thought process was, look, I'm old. This might be my last chance.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave. I don't want to get on that. Once again, this is the no regrets thing. I don't want to get on that stage and have it in the back of my head. God damn it, I should have done that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. I wanted to go up there. If I got my ass kicked, I got my ass kicked. I knew I gave it my all. I didn't make any mistakes. I put all my posing practice in. I took all real gear. I didn't deviate from my diet once. I wanted to get up there with no regrets, no doubts in my head, and just, then the rest is up to fate. Once again, the 90%, what I can control versus the 10, which I can't control, which is what the judges think.
How did you get access to like pharma, or I mean, I guess, how did you get like pharma Primo and Pharma Mass and all these things?
My top secret source I can't talk about on air.
All right. Decent.
It's funny how bros always think I have some top secret source. Man, you can order it from anywhere, man. Overseas.
Yeah.
There's places you can get stuff.
Overseas.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I guess the last thing I forgot, what was it?
Prep brain kicking in.
I've been doing really well. This podcast. In regards to, because like the last 2 days, bro, I was suffering, man. I was just really in the freaking the hole. But
I'll get a day in the prep, and I completely. There was I saw some check-ins that I did with some of my clients like the day before my show. One of my clients messaged me back. He's like, "Bro, are you okay?" And I went back and looked at the message, and it was just like a bunch of gibberish. I'm like, I must have been like falling asleep when I was talking to him.
That's funny. That's funny though.
I was like, yeah, sorry about that, man. That's what happens when you're the day out.
So, what are all the health protocols and precautions, such as like scans and blood work that you do, and like how regularly do you do them?
I get blood work done, I don't know, every couple months. Sometimes on prep more frequently. If I start feeling like shit, I'll go get blood work done. You know how it is, man. Sometimes on contest prep, I don't want to know.
Yeah, for real. I didn't either, but then I got my blood work done halfway through contest prep, and I'm like, holy shit, my doctor said this was actually pretty good. And he's like a paranoid fuck, so.
I'm like, I don't want to look at my blood work on prep, so I have to quit. It's such a bodybuilder thing to do.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it when I'm done. No, like every 3 months or so, I think is a good routine. Getting the regular stuff done. You keep an eye on your lipids. You want to definitely. I mean, all right. So rolling it back, let's think about what kills bodybuilders. Typically, it's cardiovascular events. Usually, that's the thing that's going to kill bodybuilders acutely.
Yeah,
heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmias, aneurysms, things like that, blood clots, DVTs. Those are the things that we need to be aware of. So I would say cardiovascular markers, if you don't want to just die suddenly, are probably the most important thing to pay attention to. So lipids, your clotting factors, hemoglobin, hematocrit, although there's only so much you can keep that in control. Getting regular echoes done to make sure you don't have LVH or lower ejection fraction. Getting a calcium CT score done here and there to make sure you don't have any plaque buildup. Checking for any sort of aortic aneurysm, any sort of like a bulging artery, like somebody like Dallas, or not Dallas McCarver, but Boston Lloyd. If he had simply just went and gotten an ultrasound done, he could have seen that he had that aorta that was dissecting,
right,
and could have prevented that and been alive. And then long term, the stuff that catches up with them is usually kidneys. Everybody gets obsessed about their liver. It's pretty hard to fuck up your liver. And I'm not saying that it's impossible, but, it's something you need to pay attention to. But so I would say heart and kidneys are the two things that you need to really keep a close eye on if you're running PEDs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things. Kidneys are long term. That's usually a result of just sustained high blood pressure. Simple things you can do daily to make sure that you're healthy is just check your blood pressure. And so many guys don't check their blood pressure. Check your fasted glucose levels to make sure that those are okay. I mean, these are simple little things you can do daily, sort of canary in the coal mine kind of shit, to keep yourself healthy.
Gotcha. Awesome.
So I think those are the simple things you can do.
Are there any particular scans that you do more often, or that you think are good ideas? Or just
I think getting an echo done probably every couple of years. Getting a calcium CT scan done every couple of years is probably good. Maybe a kidney ultrasound once in a while to make sure that there's nothing going on with your kidneys. I know Chase does that whole body scan. Those things are expensive.
Yeah, I actually am going to do one of those at some point soon, just because I'm so curious. But the Prenuvo scan, it's like $3,000 or something.
Yeah, I also don't like getting irradiated regularly, so that, haven't had cancer, so that's sort of a line that you got to walk to.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things you probably want to do every couple of years. But I would say, a lot of that stuff you can see in blood markers. Things are going to be off in blood markers.
Mm-hmm.
But those are all good things to keep track of. The heart is the most important one. That's the one that's going to, pretty much any bodybuilder that's died under 40 has been a cardiovascular event.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that gets people.
All right. Thank you, bro. Thanks for coming on, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome talking to you.
I ask one last question at the end of every podcast, but if you were to leave the earth tomorrow or pass away, and you had one message that you could send to the entire world today, what would the message be?
Live your life. Be kind. Just don't be afraid of things. Just go out there and make the most of life and treat other people with kindness and respect.
Let's go. Nice. Where can everybody find you?
I'm on YouTube at Anabolic Bodybuilding and Paul K. Barnett on Instagram.
Sick. Hell yeah. That was awesome, man. Thank you for coming on again.
All right.
It was really cool.
Awesome talking to you, dude.
Everybody, if you like this podcast, you can by rating us a 5-star on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you find a podcast, and subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking the bell button, because that's what gets us sick guests like Paul. So we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks again for coming on, man. That was dope.
All right. Take care.
Later, bro.